I'll get the show started. First up is NYSA member, cool guy in general, Max Clarke for a day. And he will, first we're going to show the video, and then we're going to bring, we'll show, Max will bring you on first, and then we'll go through the video. Is that a good idea? I want to put my cans on, because apparently Max is shouting out the window in Queens, and I'm not hearing him. But,
hey, John.
There we go. Much better with these things on.
Hi, everybody.
Take it away, my friend.
Good to be back with you again. As you may remember, if you were with us last week, Max Klaxon had a little explanation, a little announcement, which was followed by my elaboration, but got a little lost in the shuffle. But Max was my friend Max Klaxon, who I, by the way, have no connection to. People say we kind of have a resemblance. I don't really see it, but he wanted everybody to be very clear on the fact that his authoritarian idol show, which was the pre-election extravaganza from last fall, is going to be broadcast one last time tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. And so if you are looking for something to do tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, get your, as Max calls them, your freedom filters ready, because it will be in Freedom Vision, otherwise known as Glorious ANAGLYPH 3D. And I think Max actually wants to say a little something about this right now.
Attention, citizens. This is Max Klaxon, Supreme Commander of Mental Security, coming to you live from Klaxon Labs. Remember, the best antidote to enemy mind control is my better, stronger mind control. That is why, in my endless benevolence, I have decided it is time for a repeat broadcast of Authoritarian Idol. So prepare to put on your freedom filters and receive my signal. Go to www.klaxon.info for full details.
What I want to know is why Max Clarke and Max Klaxon are never in the same room together.
Well, look, you're seeing us both here right now. So we're both on screen at the same time. There can't be any trickery, behind that, right?
Sure. Listen, I believe everything I see in video.
You should, yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Everything on the internet is true.
All
right.
Hey, listen, I can't get the thumb up. Is that... Show me your... It's just so Max's salute.
The fingers are more important than the thumb. It's kind of like the letter K,
That opposing thumb.
Yeah.
Is that part of the whole... maybe that's what it is, the opposing thumb, the authoritarian idol. It's all coming to me now. I'm going to my bunker.
All right.
Which unfortunately I don't have, but I can lay under my couch and hope for the best. That's what I'm thinking. It might work. Thank you.
All right.
Tonight, everyone, sure to tune in to that, because it's always great. And again, you won't see them in the same room. It's the strangest thing, but even though we insist. Anyway, now we're going to go to some interesting things. We have, to begin with, some brief little video snippets, because we're going to move that into that came as part of music. So we're going to start with those, and then we're going to move into the stills. But let me set them up first. The first is by David Heiser, as you well know, is our you may not. He's a tech guru from California, and we absorbed him like amoeba-like fashion, and he's now one of us. So the first image is from him, and I would say the first one would be, I'm gonna build these up for you. So only about a minute. I would say you wouldn't want this kid living next to you. Then we're gonna go for some other percussive stuff. And then we're going to see something so sweet and nice that's from John Billingham. Okay, so the first one is Dave Heiser, and the second two are also Jim Billingham. Now, Jim is he has no stills, so I'm going to explain what he is. He also does not have a camera, so he wanted me to explain all this to you. He's a sculptor. He's a sculptor. He doesn't move an inch. No, he's a sculptor. That would be better. Sculptor who lives in Brooklyn, and he shot these with a Bloggie. He's been coming to meetings at the New York when we used to have them at the Museum of Natural History. An interesting fellow in general. And you're going to want to know more about him after you see this. But apparently, again, he doesn't have a camera, so he's hiding somewhere out there. He's lurking as a voice only. I hope you're able to watch this. I hope you're able to watch this somewhere out there, Jim. So, without further ado, you'll lose me, and I think are we all queued up? Now, if you're wondering who Matt is and that was one of the percussiveness. What John explained to me is he had the he plays with headphones on, but the rhythm of the percussive nature of the piano, which you really don't think of it as a percussive instrument, right? It's just wonderful. And I particularly love, Leonard Cohen had a song, everything's broken. That's where the light gets in. Everything has a crack in it. That's how the light gets in. And just the beauty of this little, you could see there's a part that's broken on the little gizmo there. I'm going to call it a gizmo. Yeah. The music box, the gutted music box. And just that, think about, at least for me, that's the beauty of having my mic on and nobody else's, because you'll have to just go with my thoughts. But I'm sure you'll come up with your own. It's just beautiful that little bit of energy given to this little broken thing creates this wonderful sound, this magical sound. And that's what I get out of that. Because you could see the thing is not right, the parts are broken on it, but it's just beautiful. And just a little help, man, just a little help, and that thing just creates beauty. So anyway, now we're going to get to, we're going to go on to our images, and then we're going to follow that up with some really great, interesting stuff about that camera. So you're going to have to wait a little bit. And you're going to lose me right now, and I'm going to go on to the images. So stand by. I'll see you later. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. So, as we all know, it's music. And actually, thank you, Dave Camo, for going through all that work to get these to work on the fancy glyph. And this is a beautiful image that he took. We just put it in because it's great. This is the Steinway factory. I was going to say piano's waiting to pee, but that wasn't what I meant. A piano's waiting to illuminate the world with musical beauty. I think that's probably a better thing to say. Anyway, okay. Now, first up is, again, we're going to get a repeat of Dave Heiser. He's an engineer, IT guru, and valuable part of our team here at the NYSA. So we're going to go into the first image. And Dave, I'm going to ask you a few questions as we go along to completely embarrass you, if you don't mind. That's a set of paws on that. Do you know this harp player, by the way?
No, I don't. This was in a gallery that some friends were opening, and they had music playing. And I had just built my StereoPi version 1 camera, and I was testing it out. And unfortunately, shortly after that, I broke it.
But it's a great shot. You know, I'm envious of musicians with long fingers. I have like the stubs, man. I've been suffering with those for so long. But it's a great shot. I like it.
Yeah, this one was another friend in Temecula wine country. She was having a fundraiser and invited a band to come. Her daughter is actually the singer for the band. And so Sophia has a organic vegetable farm there. And by the way, Sophia had a place called Pasta at Large in Millbrook, New York, before she moved to California.
Well, she escaped New York. Now,
Yep.
were you shooting with is this also StereoPi?
Well, this isn't StereoPi. This was made with Raspberry Pi Zero computers, where I basically designed and assembled the whole thing myself.
Wow, fantastic.
Before StereoPi.
Wow. And then when would this have been shot?
Probably 4 years ago. That's the same place, same time.
He's got the resonator guitar in the background there, somebody. Very cool. First of all, thank you, and thank you for everything you do for us. We appreciate every bit of it. Thank you. You're a great member of the team, and I'm so glad you came along. Jimmy, you're out there. Can you hear us?
Yes, I am.
There we
now,
go.
all the unmutes are clicked. Hello, guys. Nice to see everyone. We used to have festivals to go to, and this in particular would have been coming up in about a week. It's called Spirit of the Swanee Music Park, and it's right on the Swanee River up in North Florida. And twice a year they have Swanee Spring Fest toward the end of March, and then Magnolia Fest toward the end of October. And this is just an example of one of the stages that you can enjoy music in. And it's literally in a natural amphitheater. It's like a dish in the ground surrounded by oak trees. And behind me, from where I took this picture, behind me are a bunch of hammocks strung up from tree to tree, and you can just chill out and listen to music all day long, all night long. It's a 4-day event, and we usually just take our camping gear and rough it. And if you get there early enough and you know where to go, you can get a spot right on the Swanee River, and it's just amazing. So this is an example of the typical crowd there during the day at the main amphitheater.
And how long ago did you shoot this?
This would have been in 2012. Yep, this particular festival. Yeah.
What was the shot with?
Oh, this is all W3.
I didn't properly introduce Jim, although he needs no introduction. I want to welcome him, and he's also part of our ever-expanding team of creative folks. He's a professional sound engineer by trade, and amongst his other adventures in 3D, has co-authored a book with Barry Rothstein, Macrofan 3D. You could see a couple of shots from it if you go to our virtual home online. But if you haven't purchased it yet, I will say this. What are you waiting for? It's great work. It's actually great work.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Now this next shot, this is funny. This is a guy that his name is Scramble Campbell, and every festival he'd have a spot set up right here on the side of the stage, and he would paint a painting of the artist on the stage, and he would finish it by the time they were done with their set. So within an hour or less, sometimes you would have a complete version. And if you really look close, you can see the painting looks like all the crazy figures all around the stage, because he also made all those too.
I remember we actually videoing this guy for NHK back in '94, because he did the Woodstock reunion thing. That's by '94. Oh, wow. I forget exactly. I think it was '94.
This is just a typical band. Typical band. That came out completely wrong. They're an amazing band called Blue Ground Undergrass, and this technically was the first band I had ever heard at any of these festivals. I remember the first time we went up there was back in '98, and this band in particular was the first one I ever heard when I was walking up to one of the stages. Reverend Jeff Mosher. I don't know if he's an actual Reverend or not, but he likes to have fun with it and pretend. But just an amazing banjo player. And he used to play with Colonel Bruce Hampton from the Atlanta music scene, who was a big sort of avant-garde lyricist.
He's not a Reverend. That's okay. Yeah. I'm not a laser, you know what I mean? So, and I remember Average White Band. Remember those guys?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, great name also. Great name also.
Pick up the pieces, yeah. This is a shot from one of our camping spots. Not a lot of shots I took. This was right on the Swanee River, as I described. If I got there early enough, you could get a shot right, a spot right on the river, and not even have neighbors. But we walked a little bit down the riverbank to join some neighbors of ours in a jam. And these guys, literally, I mean, everybody has instruments everywhere at every campsite: drums, guitars, you name it. Accordions. But the guy to the left of him, I thought, took it up a notch when he brought his electric keyboard and set it up on the bank of the river and hooked it up to his car battery and proceeded and had an amp and proceeded to jam. I was just like, wow. Acoustic Syndicate is an amazing band, and you can see the guy on the dobro there on the right just wailing. And this was obviously a night shot that was at one of the Meadow stage, I believe, which is set up in a big field. Coincidentally, back in 2004, they had so much rain in such a short period of time, between like 2 a.m. and 10 a.m., that it flooded the entire Meadow field, and they lost like the soundboard at this stage. They lost all kinds of sound gear. I mean, people were scrambling to get their music gear in their cars and get them uphill. And it was just a nightmare, but we stuck it out, and we forever called it Swampy Springfest after that. But I just like the action of this shot. Okay, we're gonna close out here. There are lots of ways at a festival like this to get your head tuned up right. But here, my wife Wendy is getting hers tuned up by a guy named the Dr. Professor, and he was always there, and he would basically make bizarre musical instruments out of junk he would find in the campgrounds, and around the fairgrounds. So like every night he would go scavenging stuff that should have been thrown out, and then the next day he would have made a musical instrument out of it. So here he is. I don't know what it sounded like, but Wendy seemed to get a kick out of it. But yeah, the guy was a real character, and that's what makes these festivals so special. And I hope they come back again soon, because we're itching to go back. But lots of interesting characters. So thank you guys. Appreciate you letting me show this.
That was great. Thank you very much, Jim. And now to Paul Hutchence in the UK, who inspired me to spend $200 on a giant, yes, it was about $200 on a giant fly in order to terrify children and disturb adults, all with their best interest at heart, of course. And for that, I am forever grateful. Again, thank you very much, Paul, for giving me a new thing to do, just terrify children. I do appreciate that. And I'll always mention your name.
Yeah, well, this is in Austria. It's the only photo that is in Austria. And it's not as good a harp as the first one we saw by Dave. Nevertheless, he was entertaining guests who were having drinks and meals on an outside bar restaurant on the mountains.
What'd you shoot this with?
This was with a W3. The next four pictures are in a small German southern town called Mittenwald, which has been the center of the German violin and cello making industry since the 1680s. And if you think back, you guys in New York, it's just when the Dutch were colonizing southern Manhattan, and they've been making violins since as far back as that. Under one family, the Klotz family, and this is a statue of Matthias Klotz, who was born in 1640, and just around the corner, violin making museum, which is here. I've been looking at their website this afternoon, and they are closed for COVID, but they hope to open again with restricted access probably in the end of this month.
What brought you to this town?
Again, tourism. It was a walking holiday we had, and where we were staying was only about 10 miles from the German border. This is the southernmost town, or one of the southernmost towns in Germany. It's only a population of 7,000, but it's also the headquarters of the German Army's Alpine Corps, where they train and learn and teach them how to ski, etc. This museum, however, has been opened in 1930. It's one of the most highly painted houses in the village or in the town. It looks like something you'd get almost the Pinocchio to be forged from a piece of wood here, isn't it? Where they're making violins and cello and violas. I mean, it's mostly a museum now. They're not still making them. This is how it would have been, in the 1700s, 1600s. These are violins and violas, and there were some cellos I took photos of, but they didn't work very well in 3D. Some of these will be 200-300 years old.
My friend Tom Doyle, when I was, my next shots will come up and I'll explain. When he was explaining about Stradivarius, saying that, part of the beauty of those instruments was not so much in the building. Of course, the building's significant, but think about it for a minute. Everyone who owned them, they were great players. In other words, as they were handed to the next player, they were perfect players. So the wood itself, listen, I don't care if this is true or not, I'm believing it. You know what I mean? The wood itself just always resonated in perfect pitch and handed to the next guy who is an extraordinary violin player. So this chain of extraordinary violin players make the instrument. Not so much the other parts, but the fact that the wood, it's always been owned by someone who is a virtuoso. Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, this guy. Speaking of building, this is these are a few stereo image I shot from my exploits in guitar building with Les Paul's luthier, Tom Doyle, who will be one of our guests on a podcast in the coming weeks. What you're seeing are pieces of balsa being glued to the rosewood back that reinforces an acoustic guitar. This design was based on a Martin D28, but it was built from scratch. It took me several years to do this. This is like a long process. And again, those are pieces of balsa being attached to the back. Now, rather than play like a Martin, it plays more like a Martian guitar, but it's my first guitar and I really had no intention of becoming a luthier. I look at wood and I get a splinter, it's not, but it taught me a huge amount about what the instrument has to say back to you. This is attaching the front to the sides and the back. This is what it takes. This has to stay this way for weeks to set up properly. That is Sitka spruce, which is a tone wood, and the other piece was rosewood, which is a tone wood. And like those luthiers that you showed, or those violin, I guess they call luthiers also, right? It's amazing to watch a man, or a woman for that matter, but I only saw a man do it, tone a piece of wood, just a chunk of wood. They just tap it, and they know if it's going to make a good instrument. They tap it for tone. They listen and I'm talking like a chunk of a tree. They tap it, and they tap it in different places, and then they build an instrument from it. It's the most incredible thing. Again, not anything I would ever. Actually, I wouldn't have owned 12 guitars if I knew more about them when I built that one. You're always talking to the guitar. You never listen to it back. Anyway, this is a confetti drop as seen from stage right for a band called Panic at the Disco at Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. This is January of 2019, and who knew that a year later there would really be a Panic at the Disco? Because there wouldn't be one. But yeah, this is how we used to have fun. I'm back. Now, it was a real pleasure meeting Eugene virtually, and I'm sure we're going to meet him along the way. Big plans for him. He's a very, very brilliant guy. I have no written down comments other than the fact that he's an he was an engineer, a trained engineer, an entrepreneur. And boy, he's come up with something really interesting and usable by this community. I would say that people should go out and support this and go build it. That lesson, it's interesting when you build something, when you physically get in and start building something. You learn so much about things you never intended to learn. Like when I was building those guitars, I learned so much about things that influenced my life from that time forward in terms of a musical instrument. Anyway, now that I built it, you're online. We got you. And we should cut over. We should spotlight my pal Eugene over there in Moscow. Thank you, Eugene. I think you.
Hello. Hello.
Pleasure.
Thank you for introduction. Yes, it's a pleasure for me to join your meeting today. And I will say a few words about our solution, StereoPi, about the story of the project, and show some stereoscopic images we were able to capture. You see on my previous. Let me share my screen. Just a second. Yeah, I hope it works. So on our previous meeting, John asked me how I faced the stereoscopic first. What was my first contact with this? Actually, I found this kind of image. It was a very old image. I found this in this pub, Dickens. It's in St. Petersburg. It's a very old UK-style pub, and the walls are decorated with a lot of ancient portraits and images. And this one captured my attention. It appears to be a stereoscopic image. I tried to look at this by moving my eyes. I got the 3D effect, and I was so inspired. So I decided to find a way to capture stereoscopic images. You see, at that point, I was working on a project for robotics, drones, and so on, doing some electronics. And that's why, after searching a market, I found only expensive industrial camera or cheap USB cameras. And I decided to create our own camera. It was the StereoPi version 1. With this project, I go to a crowdfunding platform a couple of years ago. It was successfully funded, and now we have a few thousands of users all over the world, which are doing their own experiments, taking photos, images, and so on. This year, we get the next generation, the StereoPi version 2, and I will say more tech details at the end. So let's go closer to point. Right now, you can see just a board with 2 cameras. In a real world, these cameras is encapsulated in a kind of enclosure. It can be 3D printed or plywood enclosure. So as this is a DIY camera, all customers try to create their own solution with the battery inside, outside, and so on. Let me show you a few images taken with this camera. This image was taken with the wide-angle camera. It's 160 degrees diagonal field of view. The next image can be seen by the left, right, left. 2 images with the car, 1 image inside and 1 image outside, outdoor. This image was taken with a regular cameras with the about 56 degrees field of view, so it has no barrel distortion. And a couple of interesting images taken. The first one is water and waves. It was a tricky thing because waves are always changing. If you try to do this image using 1 camera and cha-cha approach, you will capture different waves, but luckily we have a synchronization in our device, so we got this picture. And one more image which shows a few semi-transparent objects, so it's really fun to see that you can see object in 3D and some objects behind the scene. So to say briefly, our customers did a lot of projects like a horse vision, like virtual reality, translation, drones, robotics, and so on. And we're trying to help our customers to create new approaches. And we collected all feedback and created a new edition, which we introduced this year. To say briefly, it's a ready-to-use kit, so you can assemble it by yourself. It can be used with the tiny pinhole cameras, with the wide-angle cameras, and also with the newest Raspberry Pi cameras, which are using C or CS mount lenses. It's another class of optics, and it allows us to take a very high-quality pictures with 12 megapixels for each frame. So you have a 24 megapixel stereoscopic image. That's it. Let me stop my screen sharing. If you have questions, you're welcome. And I don't know, should I do this right now or maybe later? I'd like to show you the assembled device in action and say a couple of words of how it works and what can you do with this.
I think, like we did before, if you could tilt it down, did you assemble it? Do you want to show us what it comes like apart, or do you have one? Can you assemble just by bringing down your screen a little bit? I think that would be very cool. I'm sure this audience would love to see that.
Yes, but maybe let me share my screen, admin panel, just a second. So right now, this device is connected to my router.
Oh, look at you. Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so you can see me in, looks like screen sharing doing some legs. Just a second. Yeah. So right now I see a administration panel. I can see a live video preview from the stereoscopic camera, so you can see me in 3D. And if I want to take a picture, I have graphic buttons here, take a picture or start recording a video. So I can press it here, video preview is stopping. And now we can see a link to the image. So if I click, it opens in a browser like a regular image. So this image was taken just a few seconds ago. This is a 10 megapixels image. So we can zoom it, increase, download, and so on. And when you're working with a session and doing hundreds of images, you have 2 ways to download images. The first one is to eject micro SD card and insert in your computer. The second way, you can access all files in admin panel over Wi-Fi. You can, for example, archive them all and download zip file or do other tricks. Also, if you are working in a field and don't want to use your mobile phone or device, you can use a physical button, which is, you can see. Can you see my camera?
Yeah, we still got you.
Yes. So by pressing on this button, you got the same effect like pressing a button on the screen, and you got a photo.
You need to be hooked up to the computer. How do you actually take a picture in the field with it without a computer? Is there a way to just?
Yeah. In the field, I just turn off my computer and press this button. And also, sometimes I'm using a bag with the viewfinder, so I don't need any device. And I connect it to my phone just to fix some settings, like when I want to swap cameras, change bitrate or camera resolution.
You know what? I cut you off, but stop screen sharing because then we'll be able to see you better. Yeah. Now hold it up. Now.
Yeah. So as for the camera assembly, let me just quickly show what this consists of and how it's actually assembled.
Oh, I will do don't forget tip your screen down.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, thank you
so much. Here is a kit, a tripod, so we can unscrew it. And this is DIY assembly. It's a simple assembly. Of course, you can use a kind of 3D printed case or metal case. I saw a lot of cases created by our customers. So we have a back plate. So this back plane actually holds a button and a tripod connector. I disconnect the button, just 2 points. And here we see our board and 2 cameras. So I unscrew these spacers. And here's the board itself and a camera plane. Let me disconnect cameras. So this is the board, and this is the cameras, which are connected to the camera mount plate by a couple of screw and nuts. So this assembly usually took 5-7 minutes. And as for the board, the StereoPi itself, it's a black board. And here you can see a Raspberry Pi compute module, the latest version, which we are using as a heart of our device. So it is Wi-Fi and Bluetooth equipped, so you can do a wireless, you can access it wireless. The most important question, how to get your images, either by Wi-Fi, or you can use a microSD, eject microSD, connect to your computer. And the third option, we added that you can put a USB dongle and save all your photos and images to the USB thumb. So just eject it and you can use it as a storage. So that's all assembly process. Let me disconnect the compute model to show you the whole parts. So that's it. By the way, if you need to create a very compact solution, we created the so-called slim version of the Raspberry Pi, which has now these bulky connectors. So Ethernet, USB, and GPIO. So it's really thin board. It's comfortable for encapsulating into your robot or a tiny camera. So to say briefly, that's it.
Wow. Now, how do you, the one thing I'm still not clear on, because that's the way I am, triggering, actually, if you don't have any of, do you press the display in the back? What actually triggers the camera if you're taking a picture?
Right now, the physical button. So it's a button. It has 2 wires, and in options in configuring, you can choose the one, because in addition to a button, you can connect a screen or other devices. So you can choose a pins where to connect your button. It's flexible solution. We'll keep it in mind that our users are DIYers, so they should have an option.
Now, how do you keep those lenses? Because it seems like there's a lot to assemble. Is that done in the manufacturing of the case, or how do you keep those lenses, Like
actually, this DIY solution is really simple. We're using the acrylic plate like this one. And when you assemble, of course, your optics are not ideally connected. You can have some shift or drift, but when we're working with the photos, we usually do a post-processing using a stereo photo maker. But for the video, usually we use a lot of tricks for aligning and then doing a robust fixation, so the cameras are fixed. And these small cameras, it's one story, and another story I mentioned the high-quality cameras from Raspberry Pi, and we're using this kind of solution. It's metal base, high lenses, bigger lenses. Yes, and in this case, axes are parallel, and also, as you know, there are no a couple of ideally assembled sensors, so we have an option of adjusting sensors on board, like motion within a few millimeters. This is done by screw and unscrew. So this is for advanced photography and mostly for the video, because the worst thing you want while recording a 3D video is shifting an axis while you're recording. So that's why we go this way for the HQ, Raspberry Pi HQ cameras, metal base.
And is that plate part of the kit on the Klotz
supply? The base camera kit is the first kit I shown with the screen. But if you want more, you can choose the HQ camera mount kit. But we're not including HQ cameras and optics because there are a lot of optics, and it's impossible to guess which is the best.
But just the plate. In other words, that's okay, because people are on their own to get the lenses, which you're right. They're all C-mount lenses are not a problem. But just that plate can be purchased as part of the kit.
Yes, a plate with all that adjustment features and tripod. So all kit you need to install your cameras. HP
Listen,
cameras.
I would say that well, I'm not rushing you, but we're going to end up right now. Dave Heiser, are we set, ready to go? Stick around, folks, because this is going to be a very interesting after party. He's got a lot of extra slides and tremendous knowledge, and he's an extremely good communicator. He speaks better Russian than Tavarish and vodka. That's my only two. Tavarish, though, right? You're a Tavarish. Actually, my last name, Zelenka, means green, right? In Russian, does it not? Zelenka?
Yes, it's a green liquid for healing scratches.
Yeah, for cuts. So here's the deal. They actually put Zelenka on in Russia, which I just love that whole thing. Could I ask for more than that? Anyway, listen, next week, big show. A lot of fun. And stick around for this. It's going to be fun. Are we ready to go?